Hi, my name is Anna Northcutt. I've completed the National Bible V Summer Study 9 times, and I've advanced to the National Competition 8. And in this video series, I'm going to be answering the question, what is the best way to go through the Discovery Journal? Okay, so starting off with some basics, each lesson in the Discovery Journal is divided into 2 parts, Navigate and Explore, and according to the Summer Study Guidebook, you need to complete both of them if you want to qualify for the national competition. Each unit consists of 5 lessons, and the 5th lesson reviews all the things you learned in the 4 preceding lessons, with the exception of Unit 8, which is like a complete review unit and it reviews all the units that came before it. There's also a launch page at the beginning of each unit, which is easily one of my favorite things Bible V has introduced since I started, which was a very long time ago, but more on that later. For now, here are 3 main topics that I want to address over the course of this video: on speed, review, and organization. Okay, so when I say speed, I just mean how fast are you going through the Discovery Journal, and as you might expect, this varies pretty widely from Bible Beer to Bible Beer.
I like to try to finish pretty quickly. Last year I finished in the first couple of weeks, but I finished it, roughly. So I didn't study extremely hard the Discovery Journal, but once I finished it, I could go back any unit I wanted and really study harder.
My first year, when I qualified as an alternate, I finished like a couple days before the test. I do not recommend that. Do not do that.
I've heard of people doing like 1 unit in a day.
I tried doing that once, and then I found that I forgot a lot of what I learned, and it was just better for me to take it slow and thoroughly learn everything the first time.
I always just start going crazy on the Discovery Journal and do it almost as fast as possible. I know I at least have it finished within a month of the summer study starting.
I will usually do 2 lessons a day until it's finished. Just because that's the way it works best for me, and I can both focus on the material, but it's not, stretching out over the whole 8 weeks.
When I'm working with one of my other kids, we go 1 day at a time, usually. Sometimes if we miss a day for some reason, we'll double up. But my other kids, and so I have one daughter who is in her last year as a primary this year, and she'll just go through the Discovery Journal on her own, just like my older kids will.
I think that there's benefits to both, because if you go slower, you're able to catch more of like the little details. But if you go faster, you have more time to go through it again. So I guess I probably prefer to go faster the first time.
Okay, so here's my 2 cents. Don't do the Discovery Journal in a week, especially if it's your first time, and don't finish the Discovery Journal the day before the qualifying test, no matter how many times you've done the Bible Bee. Other than that, just experiment and find out what works best for you. And now we have review. At what point in the summer study should you actually start memorizing the information you're going to need to know for the qualifying test? And I say memorize not as in, I can recite the entire Discovery Journal word for word with my eyes closed standing on 1 foot, but more in the sense that I could take a closed book multiple choice test on this information and I could score in the top 120.
If you know your Discovery Journal, you can probably qualify.
When it comes to review, my rule of thumb is that the speed at which you go through the Discovery Journal should be inversely proportional to how much you review while you're going through the Discovery Journal. For example, if you're knocking out the Discovery Journal in a week, you probably aren't going to remember much of what you read, but you don't need to remember what you read because you have the whole rest of the summer to solidify everything. If you're aiming to finish out the Discovery Journal 2 weeks before the qualifying test, you for sure need to be reviewing everything you've already learned even while you're continuing to push forward in the Discovery Journal and learn new things, because by the time you finish 2 weeks before the qualifying test, you do not want to have an entire Discovery Journal's worth of information to master. Believe me, I've been there. Now, in case you were wondering why it's just me rambling on and on about this, it's because I completely forgot to ask the lovely Bible Beers I interviewed whether or not they review while they're going through the Discovery Journal. I did put out a poll on some group chats, and the most common response I got was, I finished the Discovery Journal a month before the qualifying test and start reviewing, But interestingly enough, the second most common response was, I finished the Discovery Journal a week after it's released and then I review for the rest of the summer. I also got a decent number of responses that were worded differently, but they all basically amounted to, I do some studying throughout the summer, but it's really just in the last 1 to 2 weeks that I step it up and make sure to get everything down. Honestly, I remember having a conversation last year with this guy who had been in semifinals and finals of the national competition, and he was just laughing about how, yeah, it all comes together in the last week. Kind of like with speed, I don't think there's one right way to review the information in the Discovery Journal, as long as you're not trying to do no review and then learn everything in a week. I sort of did that last year, and it was incredibly stressful, and I don't think I would have made it if not for A, I had already qualified, so I had a pretty good idea of exactly what I needed to focus on and prioritize, and B, I'd already organized all the information I needed to study. And with that lovely transition, we're going to see what my friends had to share about the best way to organize information from the Discovery Journal.
Highlighters.
A highlighter.
Highlighting.
Highlight.
One color for cross references.
Red, blue, yellow, and green.
Yeah, I don't have color coordination.
We use a lot of flashcards, just printed flashcards. I actually I have a template that I made years ago. So I'll type things and then I can print multiple copies because I usually have more than one primary kid who's studying, but also they lose their flashcards.
Last year, as I went along, I actually wrote down questions for every single fact in the Discovery Journal, and that was really helping me to get it down.
Writing questions, even if they're easy, helps you think of obscure kind of random information. And when you're turning it into a question, you realize, would I know this if it was on the qualifying test?
I go through the Discovery Journal on my own before I start working with my younger kids. And I have a spreadsheet that I use to put all the information in, all the original language terms and cross-references and all of that. For parents who have primaries, they should, and if they want their child to prepare for the qualifying test and they want to aim for qualifying for nationals, then a lot of it is on the parent to organize that information.
As for me, what I do is I rewrite the Discovery Journal but minus the illustrations. Okay, that might be a slight exaggeration, but it definitely feels like that some of the time, because I structure my huge study document around the launch page at the beginning of each unit, and then I just add in things as I come to them throughout the unit. And so you can see I have things like my unit title, my key verse, historical background, etc. But then I also add in things that aren't found on the launch page, but are still usually in each unit, like an outline for each chapter, the Greek words from each unit, and the English definitions, random fast facts, etc. I also have a separate document that lists all my cross-references in chronological order, but since that's not finished yet, I'm going to save that for a dedicated cross-reference video. Speaking of dedicated videos, I will say that a lot of people have very specific methods for organizing and reviewing specific types of information, and this was just supposed to be a very broad, general overview of some of the things you could do. And of course, there are people who don't see the need to organize their information at all when it's already put together so nicely in the Discovery Journal itself, and they just study straight from the journal. And for anything like Greek words or English definitions, it's usually super easy just to find a Quizlet set that someone else has made and review those that way. Please feel free to leave a comment with your thoughts about what is the best way to go through the Discovery Journal, because I'm interested to know. And finally, I'd like to close out with some encouraging words from Caleb or Danita.
I mean, I've been doing it for a decade, but I can still get overwhelmed at times and think, oh, I'm never going to get through this, or I'll never be able to do well on it. But really just trusting in the Lord, because you can't do it without him. He gives you the strength, and that's really the most important thing you could do beyond any strategy or anything else.